So before the Sega Saturn, there was this Sega 32X, a bold idea, and personally I just love this thing. The idea for upgrading your, like say, console is kind of cool, something we have seen in the PC workspace. But let's do a quick overview of everything that's in the inside. So the condition of everything is quite good, where the box doesn't have a lot of wear and tear. It also includes the instruction manual. So I think the Sega 32X is absolutely a very cool novelty, but it is something everybody should have. I think this is going to be something for, like say, the diehard Sega collector, and depends also what kind of games you want to play, because the original library was not that great. So in here we're finding some information about the expansion slot and everything else. What is kind of funny is actually that when you're looking at, let's say, this piece, they're showcasing the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis number 2. Some advertisements for the 6-button controller. That's also going to be using, but not this particular one. Look at this, specially designed for the Sega AC adapter. Oh yeah, that is kind of cool. I do wonder if you can still buy this. And I think if you're going to be buying without your price, it's going to be like super expensive. It's complete in box. But yeah, we had like freaking like a lot of plugs. Plug it in if you're going to be using the Sega CD and 32X. Let's see what's in here. So please read before, important. Let's check it out. So attach the 32X unit and expansion and everything. Yeah, that's one of the things you need to implement, those hooks. Like, it's kind of weird. And the other way, my PAL version doesn't even have these pieces of metal. So, and it did work just fine when it comes to that. So let's take a close look. Let's do a little bit of attachment. Let's see what we have over here. The Sega registration card. The Star Wars 32X, the arcade game. The manual. Let's see, read carefully before operating your Sega Genesis. Okay, so the Sega Genesis CDX and everything else. So it's kind of interesting how much stuff there's actually in here. So we do have the cable, we're having old school cable for connecting, the power supply. I'm not able to use it, I need to have a converter because these things are 110 volts and not like the multifunctional voltages that we're having nowadays. So the Mega Drive, but also 32X came with the different jack plug with the yellow tip. So here we're having the Sega 32X. So the overall condition is quite nice, it's going to be a lot of fun. It also came with the adapter because we needed to remove it or add depending on what kind of system we're going to be actually using. At the back we're finding the input for the power supply, we're having the AV in that actually comes from the system itself and the AV out. I think the biggest downside to these things, I think, were like the connector pins were not the same quality what I understand of the original Sega Genesis. And in here we're having some piece of metal. This is not an... Is this one that can open up? Yep, we can actually open it up. But these are like the piece of metal that we're going to be needing to implement in the Sega itself. We do have some converters, what you can see over here. This is the one for using in the older Mega Drives. I'm going to be using this particular one today. And then we're having all kinds of extra stuff that's going to be, let's say, overall, let's say, checked out. That we're going to be looking into the manual and seeing what's going on with it. And also the original cable when it comes to the Mega Drive 2. Oh, that's a cool one. Never seen this one before. You can also see the cable mess at the back because I've been, let's say, struggling with getting this thing to work. At first I wanted to use an HDMI dongle because that is a very easy way to play on an LCD display. I know it's actually not the ultimate way, but I'm just going to be honest, I don't have a compatible CRT in the studio right now for just going full retro CRT mode. But let's chit chat about the games and what is all possible. But playing the Sega 32X is not always going to be an easy mode. I already mentioned that the connector is not the same quality. You notice it when you're going to be putting in the game, but also when it comes to, let's say, the connections, you need to be having a cartridge that is just brand new or need to be very clean, otherwise you do have a lot of issues. But let's plug in the cartridge and I will show you what I mean. So if you're going to be plugging in, it's going to be slightly different than with an original Sega Genesis. But let's power it on. And you will see that the cartridge doesn't do most of the time anything. Or if it does boot up, it's like a freaking miracle. It is a freaking miracle. Woohoo! Okay, so but let's try the other cartridge and also showcase how you're going to be cleaning this up and how you can manage to get these cartridges to work. But everything seems to be working just fine. So the previous owner did clean the cartridges, so that's absolutely great. But I'll show you what you actually can do and just make sure that everything is clean. So what do we need? First of all, we're going to be needing the games, some pure alcohol, and we're going to be cleaning this up. So what you're going to be doing, getting a Q-tip and then we're going to be dipping it. Yeah, Wicked loves to dip. And then we're going to be cleaning it up like this. So the first part is going to be, you can movement to left and right over here. What you can do is like upwards and downwards to clean every contact. You can double check. You can see there's still some filth coming on off of the cartridge. And then we can just going to be doing it the same thing, turning it around. And we're going to be doing the same movement. If you want to make it absolutely 100%, you're going to be cleaning everything up. And then you can just do it every connection. And of course we're going to be plugging it in. We're going to be using the other part of the Q-tip for drying it up. And this is most of the time very effective if you're going to be having a lot of problems. Because funny fact is, like when I was like recording this, like a freaking thing finally booted up. Before that I was just trying it a couple of times. Make sure there was no, like say, part of the Q-tip behind. Wait for it to dry up. And let's try it. And let's do this Star Wars game too. And let's get myself a new Q-tip. Even this thing isn't like really filled. You can see like there's some like brown and filthy stuff on there on both sides. And let's do the Star Wars and let's play some games. But let's talk about the games itself. Do you really need to care about the Sega 32X when it comes to that? My personal opinion, not really. For me, there are a couple of games I really love about it. So, where Virtua Fighter is maybe not the best port out there, I can really enjoy it. And that's also the same when it comes to the Virtua Racing. However, when you're going to be looking at these games, so this one is actually brand new, sealed. And I can tell you that this is, I don't know if you're going to be needing to be very happy with these cardboard boxes. I think also with the Sonic, I think it was Sonic and Knuckles had the same kind of boxes, or at least like similar. And these things were getting, let's say, they're getting a lot of problems if you want to try to keep them in mint condition. But when it comes to games, there's a lot of cool stuff going on. To begin with, we can also have like new generation of Doom games, or at least generation. Let's put it this way, it's going to be a new version that is going to be, let's say, bringing the Sega 32X to the next level with the Doom Resurrection. Doom 32X, this is by the way the PAL version, was absolutely a horrible game, or at least it was not a good port. So for, let's say, a good example of like how it messed up the Sega 32X is. But thanks to the community giving us the option to play all kinds of cool stuff like the Doom Resurrection, and there is even a fusion version with even more options. Nevertheless, this is absolutely awesome, and I think this is absolutely for me worth it, like to having a Sega 32X now and just play and enjoy these games. But if you don't want to do all of this collecting and you just want to have the original hardware, what you can also do nowadays is getting yourself like a $15, let's say, flash card, and you just add your games like just through here. And this is a convenient, very convenient thing, because with the pins of the Sega 32X having sometimes problems, this new PCB I noticed, this is not going to give us any problems whatsoever. So there are actually many very cool ways to play Sega 32X. If you want to collect or you just want to play whatever, there are many different ways, a cheap way. But if you're going to be loading up through a flash card, I will recommend getting an original grid, because that is going to be so much faster loading like the Pro. But is it really worth it? That is something you only can decide. But let's plug a game in and let's have some old school Sega 32X fun. Everything has been cleaned up and we're ready to go. So this is one of those games, funny story is that I started playing this on the emulation and really enjoying myself with this. So Virtua Fighter is one of those games that I never like really get into. I think on the PlayStation 2 was one of the first games I've ever played of Virtua Fighter. It's such an interesting game mechanic. So completely different if you're going to be used to playing Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat and stuff like that. So it's just a 3-button game, blocking. Leave this polygon, like say, crazy fighting game. But it's a lot of fun. That high jumping is so funny. So weird when it comes to that. What a soundtrack. But when it comes to playing some Star Wars, it's absolutely awesome to just to see this. We have the 32X version, but also when it comes to the arcade version is implemented on this cartridge. So yeah, let's be honest, this is a game that is not like superb when it comes to playing them nowadays. But it is fun to just check out. But this view is kind of cool when it comes to that. Oh yeah. How can I slow down? But I think one of the coolest things is going to be the Doom game. You're going to be playing this on the Sega 32X. Let me explain why this is so cool. So this is, by the way, the old version. Also going to be switching to the newer edition. So we can even make a quick load, quick save, which you can just see over there. So new game, we have the split screen, so we can actually play together with your friend, and having the multiplayer mode. I think that is absolutely a very cool thing. So they improved the sound quality, and also visual. We do have some very cool new options. I'll show you what I mean. So if you're going to be going to the visual part, I've been set to the maximum. Widescreen hack is turned on, but you can also turn it on and off. So when it comes to that, it's just a very cool way to play. They also implement the FM synthesizer music. And yeah, this thing is not running on, let's say, the highest speed when it comes to maybe the Doom version of the PC. I just implemented, when pressing the mode button in start, you can just turn off the frames per second. Here you can see it running 20 frames per second, dipping to 14. But this is so much better than the original game back then. But for me, this is absolutely a very cool way to play. But how about the newer version? Because that was another cool new, let's say, another level to play when it comes to Doom. So first off, you don't see a lot of difference when it comes to that. So, but it's kind of cool that we have the option to configure two 32X and have like a local air network set up. So that's one thing that we're going to be trying in a different video. This thing also has some new features, like using the Mega CD version, another feature we're going to be testing out later on. So multiplayer split screen in here. But this is just an improved version where we're having the same kind of craziness, all kinds of same video mode, stuff like that, widescreen, you name it, high colors, that's the kind of stuff is not changed, but minor details, new stages and everything. So if you're going to be looking into some Sega 32X and you want to have like the improved version, the Fusion it's also called, you're going to be needing to very carefully buying the version number 2, where the first version is just fine, but of course version 2 is so much better. But you can also use a flash card with the Sega 32X. I would recommend, if you want to have some serious power, to get yourself an original one with the power to have instant load, especially when it comes to the bigger files, because 32X files are quite big, but this way we can just enjoy the library of the 32X fairly easy, plug and play from an SD card. But if you're going to be looking into, let's say, the flash card, this way we can just add ourselves like all kinds of cool stuff. And we can just play games. So let's take a close look at some other stuff. Having also the homebrew games can be added to this. Let's see what's in the other. So having over here the 32X. We can also load up different, like the files if you want to get into some different stuff when it comes to the Sega Mega CD, but that's something of a different story. So let's say 32X. Let's choose a different game with all kinds of cool games, like the Blackthorn is a very, like say, a hidden gem, I can say. We're using the US system, so we need to load up a US file. Otherwise, we're going to be getting the message that is not compatible. So let's see over here, Colibri, USA, Europe. So some of them are actually, like multi-region. But let's say we're going to be using in 3 megabytes. And to give you an idea, so this is the reason why I would love to use like a Pro card from Quits, so we have like instant load. The erasing, man, the erasing takes some time. But if you're going to be loading up the games, yeah, it's going to be absolutely crazy shenanigans. Of course, if you have been loading the file into the flash card, what you can actually do is just leave it in and just press start by getting in the menu. And this way we can just actually play instantly the game that you have been saved. But if you're going to be switching a lot, this is going to be taking up a lot of time for loading my files. If you don't care about that, like, well, let's say $15, it's a very cheap way to play. But yeah, the instant loading is a lot of time saving when it comes to that. where it's fun to have all of these games in a cartridge form factor. Yeah, this is another way to play. So there's even a save, which you can just see over here. So that function seems to be working fine. So that's kind of cool. Let's get into some gameplay. You can choose some different characters from this part. And it froze. Woohoo! Oh yeah. But if we're going to be resetting it, we can just actually reset the system and reset the game itself and see what's going on over there. That was kind of interesting to see that everything froze. Oh, okay, that was kind of interesting. Let's try a different game, let's different part. It is interesting. Yeah, we do have some problems when it comes to this. So let's get into the game from the start to see what is going on. I think it has something to do with the save file. So far so good. So I think there's something to do with the save file, that it is going to be corrupted or there's something wrong with it. So it's absolutely a blast to the past with a Sega 32X. Yeah, the question remains, is this something you should, let's say, take consideration to get? Because it's quite expensive when it comes for collecting, not only the Sega 32X, but also when it comes to collecting the games. Where we have like a cheap way, with a cheap flash card, I did showcase that we did have some minor problems with the save files, but besides that, yeah, there is all kinds of cool ways to play, but I think you need to be a diehard Sega 32X fan if you need to get yourself one of these devices.